really appreciate Rich. The district gives us a presentation that's 197 slides long with very small print that takes an attorney to understand. And we only have one here, and I don't know if he understands it. So we've made it focused on the most important points. And Rich, as you come up, I will change our presentation. Brilliant president that's taken that slide that what she really cannot allow some administrative district related orange.
So at first earlier, 15 minutes ago, as I say, word must have gotten out. I was doing the training today. We were a little thin, but I'm so happy that you all made it here today for this important training. Okay. I'm the club's youth protection officer. I gained that position by being president before last, and it was really by default, because if you don't have a youth protection officer, and we did not at that time, the president becomes the youth protection officer. So I really had two positions, and then as Mark entered as president, he asked if I wanted to continue as YPO, and I said absolutely. I'm on a learning curve. And as a matter of fact, we have a club member, Donna Flory, who's really a subject matter expert and has a lot of certifications around youth protection. So even though Donna can't make a lot of her meetings because of work obligations, we do have an in-club subject matter expert with years of experience, a lot more than me. I'm still learning. But Mark did a masterful job of putting slides together. So without any further ado, we'll get moving. But slide one's just, good afternoon. This session is about protecting youth, protecting Rotary, and really most importantly, protecting you and us. And we'll touch on that a lot. 20 years ago, I helped a church develop a youth protection policy with really an expert. She was professionally, she did this. I just chimed in, but it really raised awareness around me, around this whole subject of harassment, youth protection, and I'm so, it's just awesome. Rotary does the same. So, but we're going to talk about what you need to know, what to notice, and what to do when something feels wrong. So we'll move on to slide 2. Is it moving, Mark?
That's it.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry. Abuse and harassment often leave no visible signs. Young people may delay reporting because of fear, embarrassment, uncertainty. Our role is to notice, listen, and act. Ask for a show of hands of members who interact with youth in any Rotary setting. You just, under any circumstance, okay? So we have numerous. And I think probably in likelihood on a continuum, many more of you will participate when we do Crossroads or many of the other programs, bell ringing, things of that nature with our youth. Okay, slide 3. Rotary has a zero tolerance for abuse and harassment. If someone is found responsible, they are removed from Rotary. Our role is not determining guilt. Our role is to report concerns immediately and let the authorities decide. Slide 4. Is it moving, Mark?
It is, but they don't necessarily.
Okay. Because I
think, sorry, this was all put together by AI this morning in the last ditch effort. So, yeah, just read your part and then read what is up there. I think that's where, I'm not sure. I guess that's the way it works.
Yeah, well, this is levels of responsibility. Oh, right. Yeah, I think so. This may be it. This may coincide. Yeah, Mark, God bless him, he put this together really yesterday and this morning, and he shared the slide deck with me. But it's still a little bit of a work in progress, but I think we have a suitable finished product. But every Rotarian shares responsibility for a safe environment. Ignoring behavior sends a message of acceptance. You do not need certainty. Concern alone is enough to act. Slide 5. And by the way, if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask. Slide 5, harassment does not require physical contact. It can be verbal,
written, online, repeated, or severe enough to create discomfort? So I guess the easy question, I think it's already answered, is physical contact required for harassment? I think clearly we know it's not, because it can be verbal or through other actions. Like blocking somebody is a good example. You know, you kind of say you get an adult or you get a youth and you kind of block them, and physically you're not touching them, but you're kind of preventing them. You're trying to, you know, pigeonhole them somewhere. That's not a good situation at all for the recipient. Slide 6. We're going to talk about grooming for a minute. Grooming often starts with small behaviors that seem harmless. Gifts, favors, isolation, and secrets. Here's a question. Ask which of these behaviors could easily be overlooked if no one is paying attention. Gifts, favors, isolation, secrets, any of those things that might be easily overlooked that you can think of circumstantially.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. Anything that you can think of that I would say that, you know, if someone's grooming, say a young person, they might say, you know, here's a gift certificate or here's a, you know, some sort of a thing, you know, and we wouldn't know about it. You know, as a group, we wouldn't know. It's just, you know,
I think isolating them too.
Yeah.
That means getting them away from the group where we wouldn't see anything.
You know, organizations like ours, whether it's scouting, a church, Rotary, are kind of like the last bastion, if you will. It's the, you know, for people that are going to harass someone, that are child predators, you know, youth sports, it's like where do bank robbers go? You know, in the old days, they go to the bank. That's where the money is. Well, they go where the youth are. And what they did was they preyed upon many years ago, so many of those nonprofits, churches, you know, really good organizations just didn't have the infrastructure and the rules that we have now implemented to protect youth and protect others. Mark?
It just dawned on me, I kept thinking that this really doesn't apply because unless we do interact or something like that, but then our crosswords connections, when we fill the bags, there's always children there.
Mhm.
When we do boxes of basics, a lot of times there'll be children there helping with boxes of basics. So a lot of our service opportunities, we interact with youth. So it's important that we keep our eye out there also.
Yeah, and many times, you know, when we did the food packing at your church. So I think we're now on slide 7. Yeah, we talked about grooming. Some youth show withdrawal, anxiety, aggression, and behavioral changes. Many show no signs at all. This is why awareness and strong boundaries matter. Slide 8. Ask the group to say together, and I'll repeat it a couple of times. If you see something, say something immediately. If you see something, say something immediately. Truly. I smile while I say that, but I mean it sincerely. Slide 9. Explain the reporting flow. Listen calmly. Gather basic facts without asking why. Ensure immediate safety to whether it's an adult or a child. Remove the accused from youth contact. This is really one of the most, that's obvious and super important, but this one is really critical. Contact law enforcement and report to Rotary International within 72 hours. Reassure members they do not need all the answers to report. And that's you know, it's up to law enforcement to do the investigation, determine what's transpired. It's, you know, it's not for us to do that. We're just observing and reporting. Yeah, once again, reassure members they do not need all the answers to report something. Slide 10, reporting is non-negotiable. All allegations involving youth must be reported to local law enforcement and Rotary International. Rotarians do not investigate crimes. This protects everyone involved. And slide 11, Mark, did you have something?
I was going to say, if there's any concern, I think the first thing, if Rich is available, to contact him to say, I see something that concerns me, and he knows this.
I think,
well, because he's done this for 2 or 3 years now.
and I think that also, I want to touch on this real quick. Really clearly, a lot of the main focus is just what the namesake is. It's youth protection. But there's also just member protection from harassment. Many years ago, we had, I think, a very well-respected senior, fairly Rotarian, and he had words with another very senior, respected Rotarian, all within our club. And the recipient of the badgering and the harassment told me about it. And I told that person, I said, we don't tolerate that. If that made you upset you and you were uncomfortable, it should be reportable. We can report it. It doesn't need to just be swept under. This person that was the recipient is a very big backbone, strong, driven, intelligent person. And that person elected just to kind of, it wasn't, why not? Anyway, but they elected to let it go. But and I wasn't the YPO at the time. I said, that's just ugly and unnecessary. It is harassment. We don't treat each other that way. This was adult to adult, club member to club member. So yes, this is youth protection, but it's also protection for any of us from unnecessary harassment. Slide 11, I believe, never investigate on your own, promise confidentiality, delay reporting, or rely on someone's reputation. Reporting is not an accusation, it's a safety action. So I need to restate this too. Never investigate on your own. Of course, we'll let law enforcement do that, or the district assets that we have. Never promise confidentiality, because in some instances, the recipient is going to have to disclose this or repeat it to other people. We can't just say, well, yeah, you don't worry, you're not going to have to, they may have to talk to law enforcement or talk to a district official. That sounds so serious, a district official, but slide 12, I can, let me try to use this scenario if I can pull it up on my computer. These are fairly, it's just kind of a practice thing.
Where you notice things like a cheap gas station maybe, or where you kind of notice maybe something's peculiar?
Well, I think the thing that I'm aware of from all the Rotary stuff and from Amelia Stanzel is, I just am aware. I'm not always looking for it, but my eyes are open just to any type of human trafficking. That's the one thing and it might not be very obvious to me, but if it's obvious, I'm going to see it and I'm going to report it if I think it's suspicious.
There's one place in town that's getting a reputation for being a grooming place, or a place where they'll pick up kids. It's the Target in Gainesville.
The Target.
Wow.
So I've heard it from multiple sources. So I have not experienced it because I don't go to Target very much, but I've heard from multiple sources that that's a grooming site or a pickup site for
Yeah.
young girls is the Target. So you got teenagers going
Yeah.
to Target, tell them watch out.
Maybe you should get a.
Cindy, thank you for sharing that. That just goes to show that these things are in our backyard, just we all know that. It's just a matter of degree and level. Okay, here's my little scenario for you all. You reported an allegation that a member of your club sexually abused a young person, and authorities are investigating. The club member is well respected, has never been accused of wrongdoing. Several club members have attested to the person's character and are sure that nothing happened because the student did not report anything for several weeks. What should you do? Here's the scenario. One is ask the young person why they didn't report it sooner. Another one is tell the accused Rotarian and other club members that you are required to report the incident. Do allow the member to keep participating in youth programs under separate supervision because they never have been accused of impropriety before. And also another one is explain that Rotary will not tolerate abuse or harassment. Say that to protect both the young person and club member, law enforcement officers, not Rotarians, must determine the validity of the allegations. In parentheses, a member is found to have abused or harassed must be removed from Rotary, in quotation. What of those three options, which you think is the most appropriate? I'll repeat them if you want me to. Sorry for the ring.
I think the last, let the law
The
enforcement.
last one, yeah, I think so. That's the correct answer. Explain that Rotary will not tolerate the abuse or harassment. Say that to protect both the young person and the club member, law enforcement officers, not Rotarians, must determine the validity of the allegations. A member is found to have abused or harassed must be removed from Rotary. So that's kind of our exercise. And kind of maybe final thoughts before any other questions. A safe club culture includes working in groups, setting boundaries, obtaining consent, talking openly, and empowering youth to speak up. These habits protect everyone. And one of the things I've kind of learned from going through this process is that if I do go to, to Crossroads or any other place where there's youth, I'm not going to have it pinned on my chest, but I'll, if I'm working along on filling a box or something, I'll just let them say, hey, by the way, Rotary's got a policy around harassment, abuse, and we want to protect everybody, including our youth. So if you ever feel uncomfortable or someone does something you think's improper, just let us know and we'll look into it. We don't tolerate it.
That leads up, this slide came out of nowhere, but I think this 6-step process is what you're just talking about.
Yeah, this process I don't need to recite it. It's going to speak for itself. It's a good summary. We're really just, gathering facts, making sure everybody's safe, keeping the accused person. And, that's one of the things when we did the youth protection policy at my church, it was just like, if we can set up situations, it reminds me of this whole thing with a golf pro that I knew. He said, what's the best way to play out of a sand trap? And his reply was never be there in the first place. Yeah. And it's kind of true. Some of the pros actually aim for but they're so good. They can get out of sand better than they can chip, but that's not you and me. But my whole thought is if we set up scenarios where it's open, everybody's visible, no one's separated. We're just setting a stage for a safe environment where maybe some child that's going through some stuff, psychologically, or just is angry at the world or angry at parents or authority and just wants to kind of stick it to somebody and say, yeah, we went back to get supplies out of the closet and Mr. Jones groped me. And it's a false allegation, but it was set up by Mr. Jones going to the closet out of view with that youth. And then it has to be reported. And the accusation of that is darn near as bad as being convicted of it to your reputation. I think we all know that. And that's why I think in these environments where we have youth, it's just great to have it open and everybody in view. And then to let them know if they're uncomfortable, someone has said something off color to them, to let us know. So those are kind of my thoughts from, past and personal experiences. What to watch for, boundary testing or secrecy, isolation from peers, gifts. These are all grooming type activities. And three things to remember, I would ask you about youth protection. Abuse is rarely obvious. Reporting protects everyone, and acting quickly matters. It does matter. Most Rotarians will never face an allegation, thank goodness. But every Rotarian must know what to do if one arises. Encourage members to ask questions if unsure and remind them where to report concerns. To kind of summarize this or to complete it for you all today, and I really appreciate your attention in being here. Did anyone have any questions, comments, anything that they'd like to add today? Yes, Todd.
Rotary has insurance, it's liability insurance. That's why reporting is important. That's one reason. Second is, don't training like we're going through today. qualifies you to be dependent on the insurance. Rotary Action is self-insured to a large extent. So they're a little bit, they've become more restrictive with respect to the protections under that, the insurance. They have an insurance company, but it's in reality, it's their Rotary's money. So if you go to a higher level of involvement with children, even to the highest level, which would be the home exchange program and so forth, there's a lot more vetting that goes on, but it's important to go through the training so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you're reaching into your own pocket to defend yourself, as opposed to Rotary being here to protect you.
Thank you, Don. Excellent. Any other questions or input from?
And that's all part of our annual dues that I send you dues, we're part of the dues that we send to Rotary International. And part of it is for the magazine you get, and another part is for this insurance that we all help with. I like last month's magazine about the malaria.
Yeah, there's some good things in there. You know, you can get that electronically too. You don't have to get it in paper form. You really know that.
No, I'm well,
Yeah. All right, thank you, Rich.
thank you, Rachel.
So we're covered for this year. Great today. We have some